Daniel was not a man who liked attention. He came to the alien colony as a simple mechanic fixing farming tools, engines, and small machines. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, but they were valued for their hands-on skills. The aliens. Here at advanced science, but when it came to fixing broken tools in the dirt, no one could beat a human's stubborn mind and rough hands. One hot afternoon, Daniel was repairing a harvester near the edge of the village. Sweat rolled down his forehead as he bent over the machine. His shirt was dirty with oil and dust, but his work was steady and sure. Around him, alien villagers moved about, their bright skin shimmering under the twin suns. Most ignored him. Some watched from a distance, whispering. Humans were strange to them, strong and clumsy, yet somehow good at things that should have been simple but weren't. That was when he first saw her. Lyra, the small alien girl, was walking carefully across the dusty road. Her arms were full of glowing fruits, round, heavy, and faintly humming. With energy, the villagers called them coconuts, though they were nothing like the coconuts Daniel knew from Earth. These were alive in a strange way, pulsing with light as if each one carried a heart inside. Lyra herself looked nervous. Her skin was pale lavender, her eyes too big for her face, and her long hair shimmered like silver threads. She stumbled, and one of the coconuts slipped from her arms. It rolled across the ground, glowing brighter as it bumped near Daniel's boot. He stopped working and bent down to pick it up. His rough hand closed around the fruit. The coconut pulsed once, then swelled, doubling in size with a strange, deep sound. Daniel almost dropped it. Lyra gasped, her face turning a deep shade of purple. What humans would call blushing. She ran forward, snatched it from his hand, and hugged it close to her chest. Her eyes darted to the people around who had all stopped to stare. "What did you do?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know," Daniel said, confused. "I just picked it up." The villagers began to murmur. Some pointed, others looked horrified. One old alien woman muttered a word Daniel could not understand, but the tone was clear. Fear. Lyra's hands shook as she tried to balance the oversized coconut with the others. Her cheeks still glowed with that strange blush. She looked at Daniel as if he had touched more than just fruit. As if he had touched something forbidden. Daniel frowned. "Hey, I didn't mean—" "Don't say anything," Lyra hissed. Her voice was sharp but weak, as if she was fighting her own panic. She turned and hurried away, holding the glowing fruits tightly, almost running, almost hiding. Daniel stood there, wiping his hand on his dirty shirt. The villagers. Whispers grew louder. He heard words like curse, bond, and danger, though most of their language still escaped him. He felt dozens of eyes on him, burning holes into his back. Finally, the crowd scattered, leaving Daniel with the half-repaired harvester. He frowned, confused and uneasy. What had just happened? Why did that fruit grow larger in his hand? And why did the alien girl look at him with that strange mixture of shame and something else? Something softer. Something she tried to hide with her blush. That night, Daniel sat alone in his small workshop hut. His mind replayed the moment again and again. He could almost see the coconut glowing brighter, almost hear the girl's quick breath as her face turned purple. He told himself it was nothing, just some chemical reaction. Maybe the fruit was sensitive to warmth, or maybe it responded to pressure. That would be the simple answer, the safe answer. But deep down, Daniel knew it wasn't so simple. The way the villagers had stared at him, the way Lyra had run, as if she were guilty of some crime. It all pointed to something else. Something secret, something hidden under layers of alien culture he did not understand. He leaned back on his chair, staring at the ceiling. Outside, the village was quiet, but Daniel could not sleep. He thought of the girl's eyes, too wide, too bright, filled with fear yet also something like curiosity. He thought of her blush, the way it seemed to spread through her whole body like fire. Why would a simple accident cause such a reaction? Why did his touch matter so much? Daniel did not know, but one thing was clear. This was only the beginning. And somewhere in the night, Lyra lay awake too, hugging the oversized coconut against her chest, her face still hot with that strange blush. She whispered to herself, "Why him? Why a human?" The next morning, the village was buzzing. Daniel could feel it the moment he stepped outside his workshop. People glanced at him, then quickly looked away. Some whispered behind their hands. Some laughed nervously. Others frowned. With suspicion, he didn't need to know their language to understand. They were talking about yesterday, about the glowing fruit, about the alien girl who blushed like fire when he touched it. Daniel tried to ignore them. He went back to the broken harvester, working with his tools. His hands moved steady, but his mind kept drifting. He thought of Lyra, the tiny alien girl with silver hair. He remembered the way her cheeks had turned, deep purple, her eyes wide with shock and something else she was hiding. As he worked, he noticed movement at the edge of the field. Lyra was there, standing half-hidden behind a tall fence of crop vines. She was watching him. Her arms were empty, this time, but her posture was nervous. Her eyes darted away when he caught her gaze and her skin flushed again. Daniel straightened and called softly, "Hey!" Lyra shook her head quickly, as if warning him not to speak. Then she vanished behind the vines, leaving him frowning in confusion. By midday, the whispers grew louder. Two alien youths passed by, pointing at Daniel and laughing. He couldn't understand the words, but the tone was mocking. One of them held up a round stone, cradling it in his hands like it was a glowing coconut. Then he pretended it grew, and both laughed until their sides hurt. Daniel clenched his jaw. He had been mocked before, on Earth in spaceports, and now here. It never bothered him much, but something about this felt different, more dangerous. Later, as he walked back to his hut, an older alien stopped him. The man's face was lined with age and his voice was heavy with warning. "Human," he said in broken English, "stay away from the girl." Daniel paused. "What girl?" The alien narrowed his eyes. "You know, the one you touched. It is forbidden." He leaned closer. "Danger for you, danger for her. You understand?" Daniel wanted to argue, but the man turned and walked away before he could speak. The warning echoed in his mind. Forbidden, danger. That night, Daniel's hut felt smaller than usual. He sat by the lamp, staring at his calloused hands. He wasn't superstitious. He believed in hard work, in tools and machines, in things that could be fixed with logic. But the way that coconut had swelled in his grip, that had no logic, and the way Lyra had looked at him, it wasn't just fear. It was something deeper, something he couldn't name yet. A soft knock pulled him from his thoughts. He opened the door and found Lyra standing there. Her silver hair shimmered faintly in the lamplight. Her hands clutched at her chest as if holding herself together. She glanced around nervously before stepping inside. "You should not talk to me," she whispered, her voice shaking. "They are all watching. They think you claimed me." Daniel blinked. "Claimed you? I don't understand." Her cheeks burned purple. She looked down, refusing to meet his eyes. "The coconuts, they only grow like that when touched by a mate." The words sank into him like stones. Daniel frowned. "Wait, are you saying, when I touched it?" Her blush deepened. "It means something here. Something sacred, forbidden for strangers. The others think you chose me. They think I accepted." Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "That's crazy. I didn't even know. It was an accident." Lyra shook her head. "Accident or not, the bond is made. They will not forget, and I cannot stop it. My body reacts. I cannot hide it." She trembled as she said it. Her voice broke. "I am ashamed, but also, I cannot stop feeling." She cut herself off, pressing her lips together. Silence filled the room. Only the hum of the lamp remained. Daniel looked at her, this fragile, trembling girl, and realized she was caught between her people's law and something new she didn't understand. "I don't want trouble for you," he said softly. "If staying away helps, then I'll—" "No," she interrupted, surprising, even herself. Her eyes widened and she quickly covered her mouth. Her whole face glowed purple. She whispered again, "No, I don't want you to stay away. Daniel's chest tightened at her words. He didn't know what to say. He didn't even know what this meant for either of them. But one thing was clear. The whispers outside were only growing louder. And the bond between them was becoming something they couldn't ignore. Outside the hut, in the shadows, unseen eyes watched them. A figure slipped away into the night, running toward the elders' hall. The rumors were no longer whispers. They were becoming accusations, and soon both Daniel and Lyra would face them. The next day began with silence, but it was the kind of silence that carried weight. Daniel noticed it the moment he stepped outside. The villagers were not whispering now. They were staring openly, some with anger, some with fear, some with curiosity. He walked through the dusty paths toward the fields. Every step felt heavier. His skin prickled with unease. The night's talk with Lyra still echoed in his mind. She had said something he could not forget, that his touch had created a bond, that in the eyes of her people it was no accident. When Daniel reached the harvester, he tried to bury himself in work. The comfort of tools and metal always steadied him, but today his hands shook more than usual. His mind refused to focus. And then he saw her again. Lyra stood a short distance away, her silver hair falling across her glowing face. She held no coconuts this time, only a small pouch clutched against her chest. Her eyes darted nervously as she approached. She looked like someone carrying a secret too heavy for her small frame. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. "I should not be here. If they see me, it will be worse." "Then why are you here?" he asked, setting down his tool. "Because you must know the truth," she said quickly, trembling. Her big eyes locked on him. "You do not understand what you have done." "What I have done?" Daniel frowned. "You told me last night it was a bond. What does that really mean?" Lyra's hands tightened around her pouch. She hesitated, looking around as if shadows themselves might betray her. Then she stepped closer, her voice so low he had to lean in to hear. "In our people's law, coconuts respond only to chosen. Mates they grow when touched by one who shares the soul link. The elders call it sacred, dangerous if broken. Only two who are meant to be can do this." Her cheeks burned purple as she spoke. Daniel stared at her, trying to process. "You're saying, when I touched it, the fruit thought I was your mate?" Her blush deepened. She nodded. "Not the fruit, Daniel. My body, my spirit, it accepted you, and now everyone knows." He took a slow breath. "But it was an accident. I didn't choose this, and you didn't either." She shook her head quickly. "Choice does not matter. The bond is there, and bonds cannot be undone." The words hit him like a hammer. Daniel looked at her trembling hands and desperate eyes. He could see the fear, but beneath it something else flickered, something fragile like hope. "Why tell me this?" he asked softly. "Why not keep it hidden?" "Because if you don't know, you will make mistakes," she whispered, "and mistakes will destroy us both." She opened the pouch and pulled out a small glowing shard, a piece of cracked shell from a coconut. It pulsed faintly, alive. "This is proof it grew when you touched it. The elders will use this against us." Daniel reached out, but she pulled it back, hugging it to her chest. "No. You cannot touch again. Not here, not now. They will see. And if they see, they will take me away." Her voice cracked on the last words. A tear slipped down her lavender cheek. She wiped it quickly. But Daniel had already seen. His chest tightened. He had come here only for work, to fix machines and earn his living. Yet now, somehow, he had been pulled into something far deeper, something that tied his fate to this fragile alien girl. He spoke carefully. "Lyra, I don't want to hurt you. If staying away keeps you safe, I'll do it." Her head snapped up, eyes wide with alarm. "No," she said quickly, louder than she meant. She looked around and lowered her voice. "No, Daniel, you cannot leave me. The bond will break me if you go. I feel it. Here." She pressed a hand against her chest, over her racing heart. "I am not afraid of you. I am afraid of losing you." For a long moment they stood in silence, Daniel staring at her, her face burning purple with shame and truth. He wanted to deny it, wanted to say it was only superstition, but he couldn't. Not when he had seen the fruit swell, not when he saw her trembling like this. Suddenly a sharp voice broke the moment. Lyra. Both turned. An elder stood at the path's edge, tall and severe. His eyes burned with judgment. Behind him, other villagers gathered, their expressions hard. The elder pointed at Lyra. You have broken the law. You will come with us. Lyra froze, her pouch clutched tightly. Her eyes widened with terror. Daniel stepped forward instinctively. Wait, she hasn't done anything wrong. The elder's gaze snapped to him, cold and sharp. Human, you do not speak here. You brought corruption. You touched what was forbidden. Now both of you will answer. The villagers moved closer. Their shadows long under the twin suns. Daniel felt the weight of every eye on him. He stood between them and Lyra, who trembled behind him, clutching the glowing shard. This was no longer whispers and rumors. This was judgment, and Daniel knew. The forbidden secret was out. The crowd pressed closer, their voices rising like a storm. Daniel stood firm, his body tense. He had faced danger before, broken engines, collapsing scaffolds, even violent drunks at spaceports, but nothing like this. Here the danger was not steel or fists. It was law, tradition, and fear. The elder raised his hand and silence spread over the villagers, his eyes locked on Lyra. You have broken sacred rule. You stood with a human, and you let him touch what no stranger may touch. You are guilty. Lyra's voice cracked. It was not his fault. It happened by accident. Her hands shook as she held the pouch with the glowing shard. I wanted to protect him. He didn't know. The elder's face hardened. Silence, child. The bond has been made, and the bond must be tested. If it is false, then both of you will be cast out. If it is true. He paused, his voice heavy, with meaning. Then he must prove it before us all. Daniel's stomach tightened. Prove it. How? The elder's cold eyes shifted to him. You will touch again, in front of the council, in front of the village. If the coconuts grow, for you, then the bond is real. You will face our judgment as her chosen mate if they do not grow. His gaze darkened. Then you are both liars and you will be punished. The villagers murmured, some curious, some eager, some angry. The air was thick with tension. Daniel turned slightly, looking at Lyra. Her face glowed with a deep blush, her hands trembling as she clutched the shard. She whispered so only he could hear. If you fail, they will exile me. I will not survive alone. Please, Daniel, don't fail me. Her eyes, wide and shimmering with fear, cut straight through him. He had never asked for this, never planned to become part of their traditions. Yet here he was, bound by something neither of them understood. The elder gestured, and Daniel and Lyra were led to the central square. The council gathered, tall and stern figures draped in ceremonial robes. The villagers formed a wide circle, their voices low, whispers like wind through dry grass. On a pedestal, glowing coconuts were laid out, their shells faintly humming with life. Daniel stared at them, remembering the first time he had touched one, the way it swelled and pulsed in his hand. He remembered Lyra's gasp, her blush, her trembling. Step forward, the elder commanded. Daniel's boots felt heavy as he walked to the pedestal. Lyra followed close behind, her hands clenched tightly, her breath quick and uneven. The crowd waited, silent. Daniel reached out slowly. His hand hovered over the nearest coconut. His mind screamed at him. What if it doesn't work this time? What if yesterday was only chance? What if he failed and destroyed this girl's life? He swallowed hard. His calloused fingers brushed the glowing shell. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The crowd shifted, whispers rising. Lyra gasped softly, her eyes filling with fear. Then, light. The coconut pulsed, swelling in his hand, doubling. In size just as before, a deep sound rumbled from within, as if the fruit itself was alive and recognizing him. The glow spread across its surface, bright and undeniable. The villagers gasped. Some fell back in shock. Others dropped to their knees. The council members' eyes widened. Even the elder, stern and cold, could not hide his surprise. Lyra clutched her chest, her blush spreading across her whole face. Her body trembled as if the bond ran through her veins. She whispered, almost to herself, "It's real. It's really real." Daniel set the fruit down carefully. His heart pounded in his chest. He looked at the council, at the villagers, at the elder. "There, you wanted proof? You have it." The elder's voice was slow, heavy with the weight of tradition. "The bond is true. The girl has chosen. The human has answered. By our law they are bound." A cry rose from the crowd, some in anger, some in disbelief, some in awe. Daniel felt the weight of those words crash down on him. Bound. To Lyra, to her people's law, to a fate he had never wanted. Lyra stepped closer to him, her voice trembling. "Daniel, I told you once the bond is shown, it cannot be undone." He looked at her flushed face, at the tears in her wide eyes. She was terrified, but beneath that, he saw something else. Hope. The elder raised his hand again, calling for silence. "Human, you are now tested. You must not only touch, you must protect. You must prove you are worthy of what has been awakened. Fail her, and you fail us all." Daniel clenched his fists. He had fixed engines, fought storms, faced hard men. But this was something new, something deeper. He wasn't sure if he was ready. Yet as Lyra's trembling hand brushed against his arm, silently asking for his strength, Daniel knew one thing. He could not walk away, not now. The crowd began to chant, the council watching with sharp eyes. The trial of honor had begun, and in that moment, Daniel realized the whispers were no longer just rumors. They were his new reality. The chanting in the square faded slowly, but the tension remained heavy. Daniel stood stiff, his hands clenched at his sides. The villagers had seen it with their own eyes, the glowing fruit swelling at his touch. The proof was undeniable. Yet, the victory felt hollow. Daniel had not wanted this bond, not asked for it, and Lyra, the fragile alien girl beside him, was shaking like a leaf in the wind. The elder finally raised his hand, his voice echoing, "The bond is true. The human has proven it. From this day, he carries the weight of honor. But honor is not just shown. It must be lived. The girl's life is now tied to his." The word struck Daniel like a hammer. He glanced at Lyra, who stared down at her trembling hands. Her face glowed with that deep purple blush, her silver hair falling forward to hide her expression. When the crowd dispersed, the two were left standing together in the fading light. Daniel exhaled, running a hand over his tired face. "Well, that could have gone worse," he muttered. Lyra gave a weak laugh, though it was shaky. "You do not understand, Daniel. You are part of me now. Everyone knows I cannot undo it." Her voice cracked at the last word. Daniel frowned. "Lyra, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was just fixing a machine, then you dropped that fruit and..." Her head snapped up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Don't say it like that. Don't say it was nothing." He stopped, startled by the sharp edge in her voice. She pressed her hands against her chest, her blush darkening even more. "When you touched it, I felt something. Not just the fruit, me, my heart, my body. It all reacted. And I cannot stop it, Daniel, I cannot." Her words hung between them, trembling in the evening air. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He had been around many people in his life, tough miners, cold traders, bitter soldiers, but he had never seen anyone look at him the way Lyra did now, fragile, terrified, yet filled with an emotion she couldn't hide. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Lyra, what are you saying?" Her lips trembled. "I am saying, I blush because of you. Every time you look at me, every time you stand near me, my body betrays me. My people say it means bond, but I don't know. I only know I don't want it to stop." Her confession poured out like a river breaking, its dam. Her small frame shook, but her eyes held his, wide and vulnerable. Daniel's throat felt dry. He had never expected to hear something like this, not here, not on a dusty alien colony. He wanted to speak, but no words came. Lyra dropped her gaze, ashamed. I shouldn't say this. You must think I'm foolish. Weak, maybe even disgusting, but it is true, I cannot hide it anymore. Her voice cracked and her shoulders sagged. She looked ready to run, ready to hide. Daniel took a slow breath and said softly, You're not foolish, you're not weak, and you're definitely not disgusting. You're honest, and that's rare. Lyra blinked, stunned by his words. Her blush deepened until her whole face seemed to glow. She raised her hands as if to cover herself, but then let them fall helplessly. Her heart beat so loud she thought the whole village could hear. Silence stretched between them, only broken by the sound of distant night insects and the hum of energy still lingering in the coconuts. Daniel finally sighed. I don't know what this bond really means, but I know I can't let them hurt you, not while I'm here. Her eyes widened, shimmering with something new. Hope, she whispered. You mean that? He nodded firmly. Yeah, I mean it. I may not understand your laws, your traditions, but I won't step aside if they try to take you away. Lyra's breath hitched. Her blush turned into tears. She quickly wiped her cheeks, embarrassed. You don't know what you're promising, Daniel. The bond will only grow stronger, and it may hurt me. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Hurt you? How? She shook her head, clutching at her chest. The more we connect, the more energy flows through me. It makes me weak. Dizzy. I don't know if my body can hold it, but I don't care. I would rather stay near you and burn than live without you. Her confession struck Daniel like lightning. He stared at her trembling body, at her face burning with shame and love. She was choosing him even if it meant pain. For the first time, Daniel realized this was not just a cultural trap, not just superstition. Something real tied them together, something he couldn't explain. He reached out slowly, his rough hand brushing her silver hair away from her face. Her eyes widened at the touch, her whole body shivering. She blushed so deeply it spread down her neck. Then we'll face it together, he said softly, firmly. Whatever this bond is, whatever it does, you're not alone. Lyra let out a broken laugh, half sob, half joy. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his chest. Her small frame shook as tears fell, but her blush never faded. The stars began to rise above the village, casting pale light over the two of them. Inside the shadows, figures moved silently. Watchers from the council, eyes full of suspicion. Daniel didn't see them. He only felt Lyra trembling against him, whispering over and over, I belong to you now. The next morning, the village was restless. Daniel could feel it in the air. People were not whispering anymore. They were watching openly, following him with hard eyes. Their stares were not only filled with judgment now, but with something sharper, something like fear. Lyra walked beside him, close enough that her hand brushed his arm from time to time. Her face was flushed, not just from embarrassment but from exhaustion. Her steps were unsteady, and Daniel noticed it at once. You're pale, he muttered quietly. Are you sick? She shook her head quickly, forcing a weak smile. Not sick, just tired. The bond takes strength. I will be fine. But Daniel didn't believe her. He could see the way her body trembled, how her silver hair clung to her damp forehead. Every time she blushed now, it seemed to leave her weaker. By midday, 2 villagers appeared at his hut. They weren't ordinary farmers. They wore the long robes of the scholar caste, faces marked with ceremonial lines. One of them spoke broken English. Human, the council summons you. And the girl, come now. Daniel didn't like the sound of that, but he followed, keeping Lyra close. She leaned against him slightly, as they walked, her breath shallow. The council hall was dark and heavy, lit by glowing stones along the walls. The elders sat in a line, their eyes sharp and cold. At the center stood an alien with gray skin and a mind far sharper than the others. He was the chief scholar, the one who studied the old laws and the hidden sciences. He looked directly at Daniel and spoke with surprising calm. "You must understand what has begun." Daniel folded his arms. "Then explain, because no one has given me a straight answer yet." The scholar's eyes narrowed slightly, then he gestured to Lyra. "Her people carry an ancient seed inside them, dormant, quiet. For centuries it has slept. But when touched by human hands, the seed awakens. It grows. It gives power, strength, growth, even change." Daniel frowned. "You're saying I unlock something in her?" "Yes," the scholar said coldly. "But it is dangerous. The bond burns through her body. Each blush, each reaction you see is not just emotion. It is energy tearing through her veins. If it continues without balance, it will consume her." Lyra gasped softly, her hands tightening around her chest. Daniel turned to her. "You knew?" She lowered her eyes, whispering, "I felt it. I knew it was not normal, but I could not stop. I did not want to stop." Her voice shook. "Being near you makes me weak, but it also makes me alive." Daniel's stomach twisted. He faced the council. "Then what's the solution? If this bond is hurting her, how do we stop it?" The elder's eyes were sharp. "You cannot stop it. Human touch cannot be undone. You must either leave her now and let her fade, or continue and risk her burning out completely. Both paths bring danger." The words hit like a hammer. Daniel clenched his fists. "Those aren't choices. You're asking me to either kill her with distance or kill her with closeness." Lyra suddenly stepped forward, her face flushed with purple fire. "No, you don't understand. I choose this. I choose him. I would rather risk everything than lose him." Her voice trembled but held steady at the end, surprising even the elders. A ripple of shock spread through the council chamber. No one expected the small, shy girl to speak so boldly. Daniel's chest tightened at her words. He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she shouldn't risk herself like this. But when he looked at her, trembling but strong, he couldn't. Instead, he reached out, steadying her by the shoulder. His voice low, "If you're willing to fight for this, then so am I." The scholar's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand, human. This bond is not only about you two, it will affect the whole colony, it may affect our species. If word spreads that humans can awaken our hidden seed, it will change everything, our law, our power, even our survival." The chamber fell silent. The weight of his words settled over them all. Daniel realized then, it wasn't just about Lyra. It was about her entire people. But none of that mattered to him as much as the girl at his side, pale and trembling, her hand clutching his arm as if letting go would end her. He spoke firmly, his voice echoing in the chamber. "I don't care about your politics, I care about her. If this bond is dangerous, then I'll find a way to control it. I'll protect her, no matter what it takes." The elders exchanged uneasy glances. One of them muttered in their language, worry etched across his face. Finally, the chief scholar leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Very well, human. Protect her if you dare. But know this, the bond only grows stronger. It will test you both, and if you fail, it will not only destroy her, it may destroy us all." Daniel's jaw tightened, his hand closed protectively around Lyra's. He didn't have all the answers, but he knew one thing. He would not walk away. As they left the council hall, Lyra leaned against him, her breath shallow but steady. She whispered, almost like a prayer, "Even if it burns me, Daniel, I will stay with you." He held her close, his heart pounding with determination. The danger was real, the discovery was terrifying, but deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning of something far greater. The night came heavy and restless. The village lay silent, but the silence was filled with fear. Clouds rolled across the twin moons, casting shifting shadows over the alien huts. Inside his small workshop, Daniel paced back and forth, his hands restless, his mind racing. Lyra sat on the edge of the work table, her face pale, her silver hair clinging to her damp skin. Her blush was faint, but her body shook with every breath. She looked weaker than ever, as if the bond was pulling the life out of her. Daniel knelt in front of her, gripping her trembling hands. "You're burning yourself out," he whispered, his voice tight. "I can see it. I can feel it. Tell me how to stop this." Lyra shook her head weakly, her wide eyes shimmering with tears. "There is no stopping it now. The bond has grown too strong. My body cannot carry the energy. It will break me." She gasped, clutching her chest. "But I am not afraid, Daniel. If this is the end, I am glad it was with you." Her words stabbed into him like knives. He shook his head fiercely. "No, don't you dare give up. You're not going anywhere, not while I'm here." But even as he spoke, her body shuddered. Her skin glowed faintly, lines of light racing under her lavender flesh. The bond was reaching its peak, threatening to consume her. Suddenly the door slammed open. The chief scholar and two elders stood there, their faces grave. The scholar spoke quickly. "It has begun. If you do not act, she will die," Daniel snapped. "Then tell me what to do." The scholar's eyes were sharp. "Only you can steady her. The bond was awakened by your touch. It can only be controlled by your will. If you pour your strength into her, she may survive. If you fail, both of you will burn." Daniel didn't hesitate. He pulled Lyra into his arms, holding her trembling body against his chest. Her glow brightened, spreading like fire. Her eyes rolled back and she gasped for air. Her hands clutched at his shirt desperately. "Stay with me, Lyra," he whispered, pressing his forehead against hers. "Don't let go. I'm here. I'm not leaving you." The energy surged, flowing between them. Daniel felt it burn through his veins. It was like fire and lightning threatening to tear him apart. His muscles shook, his vision blurred, but he held on tighter, refusing to let go. Lyra cried out, her blush deepening into a glow that covered her whole body. She shook, violently but slowly. Her breathing steadied. Her heart, racing wildly, began to slow into rhythm with his. The villagers gathered outside, watching as light poured from the small hut. Some fell to their knees in awe. Others whispered prayers. They had never seen a bond tested this far, never seen a human stand inside. Minutes felt like hours. Daniel gritted his teeth, pouring every ounce of strength into her. His arms shook, his breath ragged, but he refused to let go. "You're not alone, Lyra," he whispered again and again. "You'll never be alone." At last the glow dimmed. The lines of light across her body faded, leaving her limp but alive in his arms. She let out a weak laugh, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Daniel, you did it. You saved me." He exhaled, almost collapsing with relief. He brushed her silver hair back gently. "No, Lyra, we saved each other." The elders stepped forward, silent and humbled. The chief scholar bowed his head slightly. "It is done. The bond has stabilized. She lives because of you." The villagers whispered among themselves, some still afraid, but many awed. For the first time, they looked at Daniel not as a curse, but as something else, something greater. Daniel ignored them all. His eyes stayed on Lyra. She was still blushing faintly, her face glowing as she whispered, "They may call it law, they may call it fate, but for me it is simple. I belong to you." He held her tighter, his rough hand stroking her trembling back. "Then let them say what they want. As long as you're alive, as long as you're with me, that's all that matters." Outside, the twin moons broke free of the clouds, casting silver light over the village. The people watched quietly, knowing they had witnessed something that would change their world forever. Inside the hut, Daniel and Lyra remained in each other's arms. Her blush had not faded, and this time it wasn't from shame or fear. It was from love. And though their bond was born from accident, forged in danger, and tested by fire, it had become something unbreakable. For the galaxy might laugh at the story of a human and a blushing alien girl, but for them it was not laughter. It was life. It was the final embrace,